What's up, words? Your boy Trey Retro _ GT back for another episode. And this time I'm back with one of the homies. We call him the podfather of the social work podcasting realm, or just podcasting in general, I would say. My guy Chris Scott, hip hop social worker, man, good friend of mine. What's going on, bro? How you feel?
Good, brother, man. Just enjoying this day off. You know what I'm saying? One of my daughter's school was open, so we took her there. So, yeah.
Huh. Wow.
You know, daycare. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's daycare. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Right.
Cool. I was confused. I was like, the school's open for real? Like, that's wild. Like,
no, not yet. Not state-funded schools, but Chris-funded schools are open.
Chris-funded? Facts. That's funny. No, we did not plan to both have black hoodies on today, but we did, and that's the energy type of time we on. So
that's it. Yeah, that's for real. You feel me? I always wear a black hoodie though. So.
I be trying to move away from them, bro. I be trying to, bro, but sometimes I just want a black hoodie, bro. And I found a blank one finally, and I felt like, yes, I just wanted a blank one. Nothing on it. It's just straight black. Like,
so that's the one. No, I feel you. Yeah, I got a lot of black T-shirts. I'm not ready to part ways with. That's just my vibe. You know, black T-shirts is just the vibe.
Yeah, I always buy black T-shirts. Yeah, but
white
I've been
is
on
too hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too hard to keep white.
Yes, that's the thing.
I'm from the ignorant school of 2002, 2003, where like white stuff had to stay white all the time. Like, same reason why I don't buy like white Air Force Ones, because like I just have like a toxic relationship with them. So like I just don't buy white Air Force Ones.
I had a theory on the white Air Forces. We call them flaves over here, but low tops stayed whiter than mid tops. That was my theory.
I can see that. I can see that being a theory. But then like over here, either you wore lows or highs.
Oh,
you didn't really do mid.
Okay.
Nah, for real.
We did mids mostly. You did lows and mids. It wasn't too many highs. That's the thing over here.
Yeah, I mean mids was like mids had a run, but like after a while, you know what I'm saying, like it was either you had to do low or high. Mid was like that strap. I don't know, it was just something about it. People wasn't really feeling it after a while.
As soon as you said it and start talking about mids, I said, that strap, bro. I used to hate that strap, bro. That strap.
Even though I do have one pair of mids in my closet that I might pull out one of these days, maybe springtime.
Yeah. I said I was gonna give me some more, some lows, some Johns for the summer, but I never got around to it, and I was like, we figured it out. Get some other white shoes.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's other options out there for us.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to the T-shirt thing, I've been in the natural era. So like a bunch of my shirts, hoodies, and things like that been kind of more the natural color, things of that nature, and I've been on that wave for probably the last year. So I've been buying more of those. Yeah, like a beige top, you know what I'm saying, like stuff like that, cream Johns, whatever. And I've been on that wave for a while, so that kind of helps convert to white if I don't need to. I finally bought a white Kith shirt not too long ago, and it's holding, but it's like it could be too much longer, you know what I'm saying, for the white to stay white. I'm like, man, it was super white. Like I was like, I don't want to wear it, but it's so white,
Man, as soon as you look at it wrong,
yeah.
Spot.
And I know my washing machine too. My washing machine crushes stuff because we got hard water out here, so it's like it's just it don't help. It takes blacks from like being like super black to gray.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said hard water. That's like well water?
No. So my well water wasn't as hard as my water that I have right now in my house. It's just like a lot of sediment, other stuff that's in it, in the water or whatever. I don't know why. But as a result, it like wrecks the wash machines, like it wrecks your clothes, it wrecks your skin, and then it like in the sinks and the tubs, it'll leave like certain rings over time if you don't clean it fast enough. So you got to get a water filtration system.
I ain't never leaving Oregon, dog.
Y'all probably got good, solid, clean from the mountain water up there, boy.
Ah man, I ain't never. You can drink it straight out the faucet.
Yeah. Well, my well water I did
Yeah,
straight out the faucet, straight out the hose, like on the side of the house. You know what I'm saying? Just we outside all day. Get the don't because we couldn't go back in the house, so it's like drink
right.
the water from
You
that
got to figure
hose
it
out
out.
there. Keep moving. Yeah, we could do that. Not now. No, 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 no. And that's crazy. I'm like 5 minutes down the street from my mom's house. So I don't know if it's because how they built the subdivision or not, but yeah, bro. No.
That's probably what it is. How they built
Mm-hmm.
the subdivision, cutting costs and all that. You know the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Take me back to well water, bro.
Let's
um.
just do it.
Yeah. Shout out to my our brother, Doc Bell. He was supposed to be on here. Equity Matters Extraordinaire. Have some good conversation. We have a good dialogue around this licensure thing from three different perspectives. I think from a micro, meso, and macro perspective. But we'll get back to it eventually. Keeping
Hmm.
him up, and he's already has his own opinions about everything. I don't think he never touched a clinical space outside of what CVS he did
Right?
though.
Yeah.
I was
He
just telling
said,
somebody
"Nah."
that today because somebody asked me, they was asking me about going back to school get their masters and what should they do, and I was like, I'm biased. We're gonna go. I'm gonna tell you social work, but I'm gonna tell you why you should go social work because you
Mm,
do all these things from a micro, meso, and macro perspective. So,
right.
um, I said, but I got folks in the social work realm who never step foot in the clinical space or don't even never even thought about a license,
Right.
and are thriving. So
Yeah.
it is what it is, which leads us
You
to
know.
our topic today about licensure.
Right. Which I feel it's so polarizing, but it doesn't have to be. You know what
It
I'm saying?
doesn't.
Like it doesn't have to be. I think more people than not rather see like more inclusive ideas
Mm-hmm.
than not. So like let me just start with my personal journey, right? When I first got into social work, my idea was because I had a professor that was like, I'm not pro license. I hate the license process. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do it. And me knowing that there's an exam at the end of the licensure thing, I
Yeah.
was like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. Because actually, the grad school I chose, my first question was like, is there tests in this program?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, nah, ain't no test. Then they was like, you'd be surprised if you write a 10-page paper. And they was right. I didn't write no fat papers. I just
Really.
kind of, it was a thoughtful process about just, systems and stuff like that. But anyway, so I actually ended up getting my license or starting that process because the job I got with the school district, the first school district I worked for, my coworkers was like, you got to do it. I feel for the, okie doke, you got to do it. Black men need to be licensed so they can help other black men, all the yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So it was kind of like, all right, well, let's just do it. So I got in the process. Ended up, I switched like my supervision like three different times. You know what I'm saying? Like, until I found one who was a brother. He was cool, and he is like, he's a money man. He got like so many plugs and stuff. He was like, man, if you get your license, man, we can do some things. So
Right.
ended up starting a process. In the process, I actually started seeing clients because you can do that, what I'm saying, in Oregon with a CSWA is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm not really feeling this. I really wasn't feeling therapy as much as I thought I
Mm-hmm.
should, but I still
Mm-hmm.
faked the funk. I still did it just because I was going through the motions. But I just didn't like how much it just felt like it felt nerve wracking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I am in control of somebody's mental health, also like their actions. If they go out there and kill somebody, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna call me and say,
What you doing?
"Hey," right? You know what I'm saying? So that was a little nerve wracking. Also, at the time, because it was like a side hustle, the money wasn't really like worth it. Like if I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing four clients a week, they paying me $100 a pop. What's that? Like an extra 2 grand, but then I gotta pay taxes on that 2 grand. So so you're doing a lot of work And it's like, yeah. And then the licensure process, man, that exam, I ain't gonna lie. That exam, the first time I took it, I knew I was gonna fail. I knew it. I just like, I'm gonna take it
Mm.
just to fill it out. That's my
Mm-hmm.
idea, right? Take it, fill it out. I failed by 11. You know what I'm saying? And I was all right, cool. I know what to do. I'm gonna get back in the studio, the hypothetical studio.
Yeah.
Um, and I was grinding. I was up in the morning. I was doing this. Second time, failed it by 4.
Mm.
Crushed me. Crushed
Mm-hmm.
me. And I was like, man, all right. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. But my dad was like, take it again. I pay for it. You take it again. So I took it again. And in the middle of the process of the test, I was like, man, I'm not better. I don't care. I said that in the test. I actually laughed. I was like, I don't even care what happens in the test because I know, like, I was looking in hindsight. Everybody that I knew who was the OCSW was actually scaling their practice back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody that I knew
Include
who
me.
was burnt out, scaling it back, saying it's a lot of work, it's a lot of heavy burden. I started doing math. Like, if I wanted to make 150 grand a year as a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
every hour is somebody's trauma. That's how I saw it. Every hour is a traumatic
Wow.
unloading.
Yeah.
Every hour
Yeah.
is a traumatic unloading. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Somebody's talking to you. Now, granted, you're right. You could tax and see 20 clients per week and get
Mm-hmm.
that number, but it's like, man, that's just a lot. So, yeah, I was like, if I'm gonna pass this test, I'm gonna have to put the grind in that I did to only fail by 4. I'm gonna have to do that plus some. So I was
Yeah.
like, I just didn't want to do that again. I was having another daughter. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, you know what? There got to be another way for me to make it make sense.
Right.
So, and that's when I decided to like kind of get into to dive deeper into the education realm. You know what I'm saying? And then started, that process of seeing what I can do in that realm with a social work degree. And then I applied for the leadership program. I got in. So, yeah, now I'm looking at being an educational leader. You know what I'm saying? A principal of sorts, but also you don't have to be a principal, you can be other things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just was like, you know what? And now I'm like, I kind of want to get into like advocacy on changing the process. Like I understand the interstate compact, but like if you still got that bias test,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, in front of it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, I don't want to vouch for that because I feel like as social workers, yes, people do pass it, you know what I'm saying, but I still feel like at what cost am I vouching for this test? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't really believe that it should be that. Like people tell you, "Oh, this test is made to trick you." That to me is like crazy. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
that. That sound wild, right? That
And
sound
that we
wild,
sign
right?
up for
Like
that. You know
why?
what I'm saying? And I also
Yeah.
think that I'm thinking not saying that there's a correlation, but I also think that I see a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, passing. And it's like now, and it's like I feel like ASWB has heard the complaints and saw the numbers and maybe switched it up a little bit. I can't confirm nor deny that, but and I still do think that a test is like a test is fine. Like when I was in hair school, I'm a licensed barber,
Mm-hmm.
hairstylist. I passed
Mm-hmm.
those boards. You know what I'm saying? And so I can pass a test, but it's just like when there's over like 1,000 questions they can ask you and then there's two right answers in the answer little stanza.
Yeah.
I don't do well with tricks. You know what I'm saying? I don't do well with tricks and all that stuff. So yeah, that's my journey though. With the exam, and I still do think we need LCSWs out here who's willing to do the work. But I do know that that test does break a lot of people and they leave the field. So
Yeah.
like, is your message buckle up and pass it, or should it be, let's make it more in school? Because you ain't got to give it away. But even if somebody was supervised for 500 hours, like you saying, because they can't go past a tricky old test that they can't, diagnose people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think that, you know, clinical social work services looks different than just psychotherapy, right? You know what I'm saying? We do more than just, provide psychotherapy at times. And I think that, and like I said, the test does not test just on diagnosing and, the DSM-5. Like it's a small section. There's 4 sections on the exam. You're going to do diagnosis, psychotherapy stuff, ethics and values, you know what I'm saying? And then some interventions, some, uh, philosophies of thought, you know what I'm saying? Things
right.
like that, And I don't know, man. I think that if we look at, they said social workers, account for all of the, a good 70%, 80% of all the mental health services that we do in the States. I think that a lot of non-licensed folks are diagnosing, mainly possibly under supervision, of somebody
Right.
who is licensed. But they are diagnosing. So,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
diagnosed a lot when I was working, you know.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
exactly. Because the thing about it is that the insurance companies, which is something that we always talk about, is unfortunate that they want us to provide a diagnosis initially whenever we do a billable service. So any
Right.
billable services, regardless of who you're working with, the insurance wants a initial diagnosis or a provisional diagnosis in that space. And so part of the social work supervision is looking at, okay, how do we your help that social work is practicing on your license, but also this is a learning process, and this is part of social work in general that we, licensed professionals or folks who've been in the game for a while give back to the community. And the best way to learn is by practice via of a more seasoned social worker in that space. So,
Hmm.
but it took me 3 times. And I tell everybody this, that, when I got to that third time, I said, I'm not taking it again. I'll do something else in this field, in this profession, before I have to get to this exam and pass it. Now, I didn't even want the license. I didn't want the license. I didn't want none of this stuff that I have in front of me. I tell people that all the time. Um, but with in Virginia, like it's pretty much clinical or nothing. You know what I'm saying, in that space. And so
Hmm.
I had to go ahead and take it and get license eligible, or I had to switch my job, and ended up on that path, and then didn't want to do private practice, but ended up getting into that space. And so, and I think solving a good need. But at the same time, it's like, you know, that test did cost $270 a pop. That test, took $270 a pop. It did cost me $80 for the actual practice exam, borrowing stuff, time, energy, things of that nature to pass it. And so, but I think that if we were to have something that's twofold, where you have something that you take at the end of the semester, maybe in grad school, right? That gets you,
Hmm.
a general license, which I think protects the actual, you know, profession of social work in a sense. And
Right.
then you have an exam alternative, or you have an exam strictly for clinical based people.
Right.
What does that mean? So,
Right.
because some states, right, like I think like Maryland, you cannot practice clinical social work without the LCSW like C or something like that. They have to have a
Right.
clinical designation, right?
Yeah.
So DC, I think you can't practice without having a general licensure, right? You can't practice social work at all without having a general licensure.
Right.
Um, and so I know you talked about the CSWA and things like that. I think that at some point NASW has to come up with a more of a robust kind of detailed aspect, especially with that, like the licensure compact. What is this social worker? This is your graduating social worker, a terminal degree. This is your DSW. This is your LCSW. This is your LCSWC. This is your LCSWA. This is your LGSW. Whatever. This is the way we're going to do our pecking order in the sense of social work practice,
Right.
and this is how we're going to go about doing it, right? And so even if you do an exam alternative, what I was thinking was like, well, think about it. If that person if we're saying this person is coming out of grad school, they are proficient enough to graduate with their terminal degree in social work. It's the only degree that we need to practice social work. And then we're also saying that, okay, well, you need 3,000 face to face clinical hours, which kind of split between, clinical based work, case management, care coordination, assessment, treatment planning, like all these different things.
Right.
3,000 hours plus 100 hours of supervision, which typically takes 2 to 4 years. And we're saying the alternative to the exam is an extra 1,500, extra 2,000, or extra, 500, 700. That is almost 3 to 5 years of somebody being assessed or being supervised to determine if they are clinically capable of doing clinical based services, providing these services to the community. I think
Right.
that's more than enough. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? That's more than enough. And that will teach and help, social workers in that space more about, clinical based social work and psychotherapy than the test will ever say. Because I don't remember in that exam specific diagnosing questions. It was always like a case scenario and
Right.
what's the best diagnosis of what you should look at. It wasn't like, okay, DSM-5, uh, this person, what is this diagnosis if this person has this criteria, met this. It's not that. And that's the
Right.
difference between, other disciplines who do prepare their actual, you know, um, discipline to assess and diagnose. That's where you get the clinical
Right.
psychologists and things of that nature to do that. If you want to move to that space, then add that component to social work. But to
Right.
just say the exam is going to just be a catch-all, which is not, and we know we get clinical based classes in grad school most of the time, especially if you're on the clinical track, but it's not as extensive as a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist.
Right.
So
Right.
I think
For
this is a
real.
lot more layered conversation than just, okay, should we have an exam or should we have an alternative exam? We should probably look at, especially how much we push clinical social work, what is clinical social work? Because it's not just psychotherapy. Clinical social work service is not psychotherapy. That's just a component of it. But
Hmm.
the profession as a whole, you know what I'm saying, from my terminal degree aspect, how do we implement a solid clinical base to help, address some of these inequities that's going on?
Right. And also, like, why would you want to be more exclusive? Because you're scared that they might not take it seriously? Like, that's not a reason. It's not a reason why we should champion an exam. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Especially one that we know causes strife. You know what I'm saying? And if it's hard to pass, then you also mean that you're creating barriers for people to make a living. So like you have this exam that a lot of jobs require. Like if you want like a hospital job, a lot of people say they take the exam just to get a hospital job. You know what I'm saying? And that's they get on that Kaiser, they make their six figures at Kaiser, and then they done. You know what I'm saying? And it's like if you got like if those are requirements, it's just like it's like a trickle down. If the test is showing bias, and then these jobs that are like the highest jobs in the field, you know what I'm saying, are require that license, and I can't pass the exam because, well, for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying, I just can't. There's people who just can't do it. There's people who take the test 7 or 8 times, right?
Right.
They end up getting it eventually, you know. But at the same time, I'm like, I just cannot. I was not about to do that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't
Yeah.
about to take because then like eventually the thing was, oh, I was thinking like, so I'm taking this exam to work more because even though Kaiser does pay you a good salary, they want you to they want if you have a 10-hour workday, they want 9 of those hours billable. You know what I'm saying? So like,
They wasn't billable hours.
well, yeah, I'm saying like they want you to be busy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like
okay.
they want you to see people. They want your caseload fat. And then I had a couple of people saying like, man, if you just get the license, I can sublet and then give you some of my caseload. I'm like, you want me to work more? like after a while, that's how I started hearing things. Like, you want me to get my license so I can work more, or I can take your caseload. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it's like I just did not. And then I was like, I never wanted to be a therapist full time. Well, that was an idea for a little bit, but then it's like it's unethical because now if I'm a part time therapist, these clients deserve your whole attention. You know what I'm saying? I remember I
Hmm.
had a kid who was struggling and he was in the ER. They was calling me, and I'm like, man, I only see this kid once a week. You know what I'm saying? Like, you calling me, like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm like, I get it because I am his therapist.
Right.
And it's like, but but I didn't want to have that commitment of you calling me at 8 o'clock at night after I didn't work the day at my day job. Only see this kid for whatever. So I just felt like I was being unethical, so I had to make a decision. And
Yeah.
I also think if I really wanted to be a therapist independently, I would have took it until I passed it, like some people. But I just didn't love it, like I thought I would love it. So, but yeah, I do think that we need not to gatekeep. You know what I'm saying? There's some gatekeepers out there. I won't say no names, but there is some out there who are championing, the process because for whatever reason, and I've been seeing this for years. I remember I seen some brothers when I was in a black men social work group on Facebook. I see some brothers, talking the same way, like, just like disregarding the fact that, you know, that the test was causing barriers, right? Disregarding it. And I think we, like, as people, we love to like have like this hierarchy, right? You know what I'm saying? Or like, if I suffer, you suffer, like a pay and
Right.
dues type of syndrome,
I
right?
don't
Where
like it.
everybody gotta pay dues. And to me, I'm like, man, like if we can make it easier for somebody else, because me, I'm gonna be all right without the without the LCSW or whatever. I'm gonna be all right. But there's some people who really want that license, and they really want to practice social work clinically independently, right?
Yeah.
But they might have a situation where they can't pass that test. You know what I'm saying?
They might be
Because
a great, amazing, ethical social worker,
right,
but they don't test well. And that's not fair. Right. I'm pretty sure there are amazing social workers out there that have not passed that exam that probably are way better clinicians than I am.
right,
And they didn't pass it. Right. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, and it's like, do we, I don't, I think it's not fair to those people who are amazing clinicians that could, further progress the social work profession, do great work with the clients that need the assistance, and then just kind of I just don't like that aspect of, like, positioning them, and putting them out the profession or leaving them out the profession. I don't like the position of, you know thinking that our MSWs are not equipped, because if they're on clinical tracks, they're equipped. We have a DSM-5 class, that prepares clinicians for that
right,
space, and then they go directly into supervision. Um, but I think too, also, there's twofold. You can have two answers to this. Like, we need to look at the varying levels of careers that can be done in social work, and interesting points you made about the hospital. You said some folks get licensed to work in the hospital setting out
right,
there, or at least for Kaiser, right?
yeah. Kaiser, well, any other job. I mean, license in a hospital is pretty much not printing money, but you good money. You know what I'm saying? But out here, Kaiser is the hospital that does pay the most. Kaiser will pay you the most money.
So
You'll work the
Kaiser's
most.
king out there, pretty much.
Yeah, you'll work the most,
Yeah,
but you also will
yeah.
you'll also get paid the best salary.
So so for us on the east side, right, on the East Coast, right, like, your top private insurance is going to be Anthem, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, um, maybe United Healthcare, but Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield is top dog, right? And then you got uh, we got a lot of TRICARE military folks is out here as
Hmm.
well, because we got a lot of the bases over here,
Right,
or the military hospitals and stuff. But if you were to do hospital social work, you don't need a license.
right,
It's not. It's more. So like for one of my past employers, it was care coordination. Care coordination, you didn't need the license to do what you were doing on a daily basis, which was, coordination of care
Mm-hmm.
for said clients right now.
Right.
And that's for multiple hospitals, right? You know what I'm saying, in this area. Um, but if you used to do like, clinical therapy or whatever, or groups like that, then, you could do a group though, but it would be psychoeducation. It wouldn't be, clinical group.
Right.
So, so I think, so that's the difference between, a state of Virginia and a state of Oregon, even how they go about doing clinical based services. That's why I'm saying, like, from an NSW level, I think that we need to, maybe reshape or clarify a little bit about, and that probably is also incorporate CSWE as well, which governs our education around how we do social work, but to just create some tiers to clarify so that
Mm-hmm.
all the states can kind of work together on the same jurisdiction around the practices of said social work. I don't think they do that and have this discrepancy when it comes to doctors or nurses. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You're either, a CNA, LPN, or RN, and then, higher level than that. You know what I'm saying? But it's no discrepancy across the board. That's how you're
Mm-hmm.
seen and represented through each state, you
Right.
know? And so I think taking that model, especially if we want to stay clinical, we're taking that model, that medical model, a little bit, and kind of, tearing it that way so that there is some clarification. So if you do want to go into clinical social work, this is the route for you. Because I think that if you do want to do clinical social work, you should get the license. It's probably going to be your
Mm-hmm.
best bet, just in general. Even if you don't use
Right.
it, just go get it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to do the clinical social work and you want to do more macro or meso based community based social work, okay, you might not need the license then. You know what I'm saying? To get off what you need to get off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just like this fight, constant fight between, different areas, and then folks just telling you like, yo, get the license, and if you need it, you need it. But it's like, if I get the license and I don't use it, what's the purpose of going through this process to pass an exam that I don't like taking exams anyway? And I got a license comes with more responsibility, CEUs, $90 every year.
Right.
Your
But then
license on the line whenever you practice.
the hours you gotta take to get to the, to be
Yeah,
able to
I
test.
forgot the
You
3,000
know,
hours to get to that. Yeah,
and then I gotta pay
um,
somebody $100 an hour to supervise me if it ain't
yeah.
free.
If you can't find a supervisor, because there's a
Right.
lack of supervisors right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that we need to do a better job at explaining. Because I was talking to one of my guys today who was asking me about getting a master's in counseling or social work, whatever. And I was telling him like all the different layers of stuff that we can do in social work, and he was like, I've never known that you could do all that in social work. I was like, yeah, like that's the beauty of the profession. That's why I chose it. So it's like I can navigate through different things. I don't like staying in the same place a long time.
Right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? So
fact.
yeah, let me move
I
around.
would, I
And I
would tell
moved around
somebody
different
though.
areas.
I would tell somebody though, like if they was gung ho about being a counselor or a therapist, I would get an LPC. That
Mm,
process is a
okay.
lot more forgiving. Um, Seems a lot less than getting the LCSW. Now
I meant to
the
ask
flip
somebody
side,
about that. I meant to ask to
but
see what their exam process is. I
well,
don't hear nothing about that.
I know you can test like soon as you graduate.
Yeah, then you
You
get
know,
the hours
you know,
afterwards.
right,
Yeah,
right. So
but
so
I'm
like I
talking
feel
about
like
it, is their exam like has
hard.
biases in it? Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure every exam will have some biases, but I feel like because it is counseling and counseling is like it's counseling, like it's not other stuff. It's counseling. You could
yeah,
probably
it's strict.
prepare for that test a lot more than like social work exam, which is like seven different areas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They asking you a whole lot of questions, right? About like even like community organization. I thought it was a clinical exam. You know what I'm saying? Like you asking me
Mm-hmm.
about community stuff. It's like man, um, so
That's what I'm saying
yeah,
though. That's what
it,
they keep. We can't keep acting like this exam is the gateway to clinical heaven. Like this exam is not 100% clinical.
right,
It assesses other areas of social work, and again, clinical social work services is not only psychotherapy.
right,
You know what I'm
and like
saying? So
randomly, like the test is just like randomly like. and then they take away 50 questions. So like my thing was like, when I failed by 4, could you rearrange it to where like I can, maybe like those questions that you just took away because of whatever reason, like I might have got some of those right.
But then yeah, exactly, right? But then there's also a range of like, so you can, and depending on the test, you don't get to see the answers afterwards, and then
Mhm.
it just tells you what areas you scored bad in, right? Or what you scored in each area. So
Right.
you could have cooked on psychotherapy and diagnosing, and scored low on interventions or ethics and
Yeah. No,
values.
my low scores is always ethics and values. Every time.
See, I think mine's
Every
was on
time.
like mine's are actually on treatment planning and and diagnosing at some point.
Mm.
Um, you
Ironic.
know what I'm saying? I'm promise you it was. But then they have the ranges, like, so you can get a range between, like, some people can pass with a 93, some people can pass with 101 or 110. So
Right.
this random range that, okay, I got 100 questions right but didn't pass, but my person got like 98 based upon the test, they pass, right? So it's not even clear on that aspect, right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So let's test to the correct things we want to test for, right? And that's what I think the confusion is. It's not a clinical based exam. It's testing on clinical social work services that encompasses these 4 areas. If you
Hmm.
are saying you want an exam that tests about straight diagnosing and, like you said, counseling and clinical based stuff or psychotherapy, then create a separate therapy, separate exam for just that.
Right. And I bet the test passing rates go up. You know what I'm saying? The biases probably goes up, or like the biases, complaint goes down, you know,
Yeah,
but it's just like too many directions, you know what I'm saying? Like it's too
yeah,
much, way
yeah,
too many directions. And like I said, I'm not against exams. Like I said, I could pass an exam. And I could have passed this one if I really, like if I really want to take it 4 times, but it's
yeah,
like I feel like my heart just kind of wasn't really into it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I want to do more than just be a therapist. And I feel like if I wanted to like even like do like workshops and stuff like that, like I don't need an LCSW to do all that stuff. Like that's just not
right,
really what. So,
right. Hold on
but
one
yeah,
second, Chris. Real
yeah, yeah,
quick. Let me add a pause this jump real quick. 1 second.
yeah.
All right. Brief intervention before we had to jump off here. Um, what was you saying, Chris, about, like, you said, like, this I know you said you was like, if somebody was to go into, counseling, we talked about that, and maybe
Right,
looking at another route. But
right.
yeah.
But yeah, as far as like licensure goes, so we can close on licensure, talk about something else if you want. But yeah, I just feel like we need to switch it up a little bit. Ain't nothing wrong switching it up. You know what I'm saying? If somebody, you can have like 5 different tests if that's what you feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want like an all around social work test, or if you want to just be like a hospital focused test, a CPS test or something. We don't have to keep it the same, especially when we know we're causing harm. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like just because some people pass it, I feel that that's great, that's lovely, but social work is about making people whole, making the world whole. At least that was my understanding. And if you know we we continue to let these things slide, then we need to kind of look at our schools and say, okay, well, you need to switch the model up. You need to switch the verbiage up because we're not about creating communities and being like the voice for the voiceless. Now we're more of like now we're just trying to everybody's trying to be wealthy, which is fine. There's nothing wrong being wealthy, but let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it's fine. You know what I'm saying? People
Yeah.
people come to social work to get the LCSW because that is probably the easiest route to go if you're going to like be like a private practice person, right? Like you're going to be a person
Yeah.
because like you are a doctor essentially. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, kind of, but it is a route to go. A lot less school. You get your LCSW, then you can go be a private practice person and charge whatever
Yeah.
you want. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Also, the burden on black people. to get their LCSW is different than our other counterparts. We're getting LCSWs to like correct society's issues, and I wasn't really feeling that. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
wasn't really feeling being told to get LCSW because black men are suffering, and they are. But at the same time, is that like my problem, or is that like the system's problem?
Right. Because we can't make the victim of said population to be the one to fix said problem. Um,
Right.
I think, but you know what? The LCSW does signify some freedom, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's like freedom to practice, have autonomy, practice within, ethical reasons and things of that nature. And just, at least how I was told, like, if you have it, you're a little bit more well respected. Um, but
Oh,
I
for
will
sure.
say, what I'm saying, as far as, your clinical judgment, your experience, kind of piggybacking off of the conversation about earlier where you said like, you didn't need it to do community, engagement, like barbershop talks, things of that nature. And it's twofold. I think that it legitimizes who you are in
Hmm.
that space, but do you need it to have that conversation? No, I was doing those workshops before I was, licensed. It's just so happened now I have the license and it kind of legitimized me, but legitimized me in front of who? Because
Right.
a lot of folks don't know the difference between an LPC or LCSW, right? A psychologist and a psychiatrist, or a social worker and a psychologist. They don't know the difference, right? So I do a lot more psychoeducation, um, just around what I do, right, in these spaces. And to the greater society, I don't think they are clear. It's just one of the other problems is that we keep talking about the exam, but the assurances don't really care. Are you licensed or not? This is what is going to
Right.
happen. You know what
Right.
I'm
Which one
saying?
you got?
Which one you got, and really, what does that look like? And then, but then if you're talking about like community based work and things of that nature, you don't need it, and that's where like social workers were built upon is the community based work and working with folks in the community. They didn't need license to do the work
Right.
that they were doing. So, again, I think that that's where we have to really, well, one, twofold. NASW has to really look at how we want to, maybe explore explaining what social work does, and then what these varying different levels do or can do. And then also, I think too, from a academic perspective, from a supervision perspective, do a better, and not to say we're not doing it, but to continue to do a better job at explaining to students and new social workers what they potentially can do in the profession. Because you might get a designation or like, so for example, you might be doing like the stuff that Doc Bell got that's doing, maybe Jabri. um they don't have the title of a social worker, right?
Right.
But they're doing something via the lens of profession of social work, right? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Even though you might say Doc might be a little bit more public health, but he is thriving as a social worker in public health, right? And
Right.
so as a public health official. So also telling supervisees and students that, hey, some of the jobs and roles that you might look at or take on that you might be interested in may not have social worker in in the title, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're going outside your profession. That doesn't mean you're doing this. It means that you have a unique set of skills, which most social workers do have. But that's why the profession is what it is, to be able to thrive in this said position, right?
Hmm.
And you can thrive in this way. You can be a public health advisor. You can, do program management. You can do, community organizing, things of that nature. But then also having a conversation with students, supervisees, about career trajectory. What do
Right.
you want to do in this profession? Right?
Right.
And have you looked at this sports, like sports social workers? Have you looked at that? Have you looked at this thing over here? Like, I think some of that has been missed because, when I was coming through, it was like, just get your license and do the clinical route. And then you get the clinical route, at least you got it. And then you can, dibble and dabble. But I've
Right.
met so many other social workers that don't have the license and still dibble and dabble and being successful in their careers. So really exploring the profession and pushing folks not just into one of the things that you said earlier about just what we've been through and what we've seen and what we experienced. No, let's explore what these students and supervisees are here to do, what they want to do, and prepare them for that, and then help them on the best route possible to get to that to happen. And so, if we're not doing that, then we're not also practicing good sound social work, especially from a lens of I've been a seasoned social worker, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact, man. And yeah, I just don't like the exclusiveness. You know what I'm saying? And let's just build people up.
Yeah.
Let's get more. So we don't want to. Yes, we don't want to be looked at as like jokes. We also don't want to make this a space where like nobody wants to join. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Because
Like
we
if I
all
gotta
losing
choose,
social
like
workers.
right, you know what I'm saying? And if you gonna have somebody choose between being a doctor and a social worker, and the route of being a doctor might be like a little more rewarding, you're gonna have more. You already got more doctors, so, and stuff like that, more teachers. You know what I'm saying? So like, and not saying that's a thing, but I feel like the way our community builds, we need everybody. We need teachers, we need social workers, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need everybody. We can't like kind of be swayed one way or another. And if we
Mm-hmm.
start losing social workers, I feel like that's like the most attainable, most rewarding because like I don't want to sound rude, but like I feel like people go through things, you know what I'm saying? People go through hard things and that creates social workers. Like,
Yes. Some research to
people
back
want
that.
to reach back. People don't really become lawyers to reach back. Some do, but
Oh, true.
the journey of
True.
the journey of a lawyer and a doctor and those things, those are a lot more. Um, I want to say maybe finance based. I'm not sure. I'm sure some people do join, those forces, but like I said, we got to work together. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm a social worker, I work with the doctor, I work with the care coordinator, I work with all these things. So I'm saying like if we ain't got one or the other, it's gonna look bad. And I definitely don't want what I'm saying no doctors because social workers can't be doctors. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be
Right.
a doctor, so
Right.
I don't want to do certain things. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're in a space where we don't want to be too exclusive and
Yeah.
just you know telling people to study more when we know this test is biased is
Right. It's not, and it's also teaching from the test is being taught from a real world, not a real world perspective. Like it's being taught from, hey, answer it the way we want you to answer it based upon a perfect world scenario, right? And that's
right.
that. I mean, if we're telling people to test like that, then we're already setting up a failure. But I also want to say back, piggyback, because I've been in my DSW program and been writing so much about certain things. But one of the articles I read about burnout in social work professionals, it says one of the reasons that social workers might burn out is because they may have came into the profession due to some of the personal issues that they may have experienced, and they want to help that, right? They want to be a person of change to help solve that problem that they may have dealt with personally. But what happened was when they got into the profession of social work, right, they realized that it was not what they expected initially, and that causes or could lead to burnout. And I thought that was very interesting. Didn't realize it would pertain to our topic today. But when you talk about social workers leaving the profession, and why do they come into social work, right? You listen to the stories. Like I always ask my students, hey, we do like an end of the year project, or depending on which class level it is, or we do something like towards the beginning to get to know one another. It's like, why you choose social work? Why? You know what I'm saying? And then most will tell them like, what I'm saying, I experienced this, or I dealt with this, and this is why I came into the profession, because I want to help people. I want to help others who dealt with this and things of that nature. Now, I don't know if that's the same thought pattern from our white counterparts. I don't know. That I don't know. That could be the deferring factor, right? But for my black and brown social work students, they usually have a story to go with why
Right.
they got into the profession. And so
Right.
that's something that you need to look at and think about when we talk about recruitment and retention. How are we professionally supporting these said black and brown social workers, or just social workers in general, to be retained in the profession? And then also we got to understand too, like there is, I would say, you know, there's a timeline, right? So some of the, us seasoned social workers, like we in the middle of our career, but we still seasoned at this point. But
Right.
are we really passing the baton back? I've said this, I keep saying this, like, are you giving back to the new social workers to retain them? If you
Mm-hmm.
just holding on information or holding on, strategies, or, not pouring back to the next generation of social workers, then yes, they are going to continue to leave because they're not supported. And professional support is one of those indicators of, if the social worker is going to be burnt out or not.
Right.
So,
That's a fact.
you know,
Well, I think we cooked long enough.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Anything else? I've got 12 minutes, and anything else that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
oh man, nah, not for real. Well, let me just say this about the election that just happened. Uh, I'm not getting excited about a recount because I feel like that's just pumping me up for like some kind of hope. My thing is like, in times of despair, that's when social work means the most.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We gotta show up. We gotta organize. You know what I'm saying? We gotta just keep on living our life. And, some people do a lot harder work than others, So some people
Yeah,
I'm not really in the weeds like that, but there's some people in the weeds, and we gotta figure out a way to support those people who are on the ground, who are standing up and doing, because this is social work. And social work is vast. Social work is advocacy. So
yep,
however you can advocate for people, I'm in a school, so I might have to be looking for, immigration lawyers. I might have to be looking for, are providing, contraceptive and all that. But I also live in Oregon, so I also know that, you know, there's some places that, are going to be protected more than others, So,
mm-hmm.
but, don't give up the good fight. We've been here before. This time does look a little bleaker, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah. I think the fight isn't over. Just making sure that we're strategizing, and also removing yourself from some of the social media that's been out there. Taking time to you know decompress from that and remove yourself from that is going to be an optimal way to you know
Right,
um process. But like I said, man, like, I think more time. I still think, and I've told y'all the group chat this about, like, this is the perfect time. I think we need to look at how you know we run for office, right? If you don't
right,
like something, run for office, right? I'm not saying the president's off. That's a big, big, big undertaking, but you can make a change in your local level, your state level. You know what I'm saying? Board, like your school board, things of that nature, or holding those individuals accountable beyond just how do you feel about this from my area, but like globally, like, or nationally, or what are your views on this? Like, we just can't just accept the status quo on the campaign trail for local and state individuals anymore, and even
right.
federal. And so I think that, unfortunately, it had to get to this. I think in order for us to see what is worth, and maybe we look at different ways on how to strategize and you know impact different entities. Because I still believe in the community. I still believe in people. You know what I'm saying? I always say
Hmm.
that, but it's like, okay, well, how do we come together to unify and to also address some of these inequities that are going forward? Because people still can make an impact. Community still matters. But it's just about how you go about utilizing it, and that's kind of how I'll say with that. History has told us different things. You know what I'm saying? So we can learn from history and learn how to impact and learn how to move and things of that nature. But we just got to be strategic. But if you're tired, if you're upset, or you frustrated, take time away. You know what I'm saying? Decompress. Do something for yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's nice. And then if you willing, you know what I'm saying, then let's figure out the fight, especially as social workers. So
Right.
that's what I'll say.
Also, I ain't spending Thanksgiving with nobody I don't know. Not this year. If I don't know you, we ain't kicking it because some crazy stuff might get said, and I gotta be able to trust that my
Yeah.
peace it will be protected on Thanksgiving.
Let's eat some turkey and watch football at this point, because we already also know what Thanksgiving is about. So it's like,
Right. Yeah. Right. Right. So
you know,
let's just chill.
yeah. All right, bro. Well,
All right,
it was
brother,
a good
man.
conversation, man. I'm gonna chop this up later and get this to you, and then yeah, we'll take it from there and see where it lands, brother. Hopefully, they can help somebody and at least just give them some hope about this exam and different alternatives that they could possibly do as well. So,
For sure. All right,
yeah.
brother.
All right, man. Take care, bro.
Yes, sir. Peace.